heaven. Well, Tiendo said that when they spoke of heaven, they were talking about more the abode of the members of the next level. And that meant literally the literal heavens, because heaven was Oranos in the Greek and Shamanim something, and excuse my pronunciation of the Hebrew, having to do with everything that was elevated above us, above the humans. And so that was the sky, that was the planets, that was the sun, the luminaries, the moon. Of course, the stars are all luminaries, and that's they're all different. The firmament, above the earth, which actually, I don't think that's what it was actually, but I'm not going to go there right now. I want to keep it on the subject, and I need to refresh my memory on some of that in Genesis. But so it was the kingdom of heaven, where members of the kingdom of heaven exist, thrive, do tasks, have assignments, request help with their assignments, seek direction on how to make certain choices. And one example they gave was that you could be on a crew, and basically you would have access to all the tools you wanted and all the ingredients or whatever you needed to do your task. But they didn't belong to anybody. But they expected that you would take care of them as if you didn't have anything else. And so that's the way Tiendo taught us, was to really respect our environment, and to the degree that if I was operating the chainsaw, you're trying to clear a little area to put tents in the woods. In Utah in particular, this happened near Provo, in the mountains outside of Provo. Doe had me cut little boughs, evergreen boughs, to make so they wouldn't hang and hit the tent. And big drop snow on the tent, whatever. But because we were there during snowstorms a few times, I believe. Anyway, so Doe was very particular about not cutting too much. He didn't want to cut right to every branch was a decision, and I believe he was, in his mind, wondering what his older member would do. And if he had anything to pull on, examples of what his older member might do, then the ideas that would come to him would be what he would try. So, the whole process of becoming a member of the next level is basically to give you total trust to the older member. And that's what's called faith. You're putting your hands, your destiny in someone else's hands. And it's only the older members from the next level that are actually trustworthy. And their students, to the degree that they have overcome their humanness, are trustworthy. But they haven't totally overcome their humanness, so they still have, even if they can operate in what we call near space, in the immediate vicinity, who knows how many miles away from the planet, for an extent, I believe that the space aliens basically need to be here, need to be around the Earth in order to get the energy they need to operate their spacecrafts, whatever they have, and so in that way they basically are dependent on humans to try to construct spacecrafts that can take them further away, so they can find another garden, because they know from the history books that there's a cyclic period where they're spaded under, and then the next level, I believe, saves a new crop of Luciferians from that. So the old ones basically get recycled, so that their energy becomes merged with another form of energy, and they don't have any more individuality that I'm aware of, although I might be wrong about that. they might have a form of recognition that they are strictly in an observing frame of mind, watching what's happening, and if that was a huge shocker when they died, then I imagine it would be tormenting for virtual eternity, because they wouldn't have a sense of time once outside the physical vehicle, and so that would be more or less forever, for the rest of their existence in that form. Anyway, so that's the definition of hell. When there's no returning back, no being, and so the members of the kingdom of heaven, the kingdom in the heavens, the family in the heavens, because they are a family unit. And Tian-Do talked about there being a chief of chiefs. So in other words, there's chiefs and there's chiefs of chiefs. And later on, Do talked about Ti as an admiral, I think after Ti had left her vehicle. Because when we're talking about who Ti and Do are, we're talking about the souls that came into those bodies, that took those bodies over, which was part of the plan. And those bodies were prepared to want to be taken over, even though they didn't necessarily consciously know what that meant. That they had a strong attraction to God, as many people do, and they were willing to change, I believe. And Tian-Do said that the vehicles that they took were weakly and probably wouldn't have survived had they not brought their energy, their mind into close proximity to work with those vehicles, and then to actually coexist, actually have their mind be the mind that takes over that vehicle. While Tian-Do said that the souls of those vehicles that they took, as well as returning students took, were basically still there, and they were just observing, and they were basically forming a strong belief because they were observing everything. And sure, they heard the criticisms, because the criticisms go through the brain. They're automatic. We're programmed with criticisms of things that are happening around us. And we should be critical about it, because it's but through the criticism that we get to weed out what it's not. Frequently the answer to your questions comes as what is not a good choice. And so then when you rule out all the good choices, all the choices that you're looking for that are the good choices, or the best choice, the choice that your older member would make in whatever circumstance you're in, then there's the feeling that comes with that as you do it more, to where you're actually recognizing the mind. It's got a quality to it. It's frequency based. So it's just like a digital computer reading a digital computer, and it's the frequencies. Thought is a frequency. Thoughts have frequencies, and humans know this. Many scientists know this now. Known it for a long time, and when they didn't know it, by being able to measure it with instrumentation, they knew it, and it was called intuition, or it was called just enlightenment, or from there, because this was done in the past, the next level has been working with civilizations more than we can count. I don't know what number it would be, but you see how many stars are up there? Potentially, each one of them could have many planets that could harbor life. There's no way to know. And so measuring the universe and how old it is really does indicate how full of themselves they are. It's trivia, they know it's not accurate, but when they teach that in the classrooms, the children grow up thinking of that as propaganda, so that they do know the age of the universe. So they basically, they don't even know what's happening, but what's happening is the Luciferian space aliens, yes, the Luciferian space aliens, because they were the rebels the last time. The garden had a garden, and where where students were brought back, the saints, as they say, those that were willing to give their all. The last time the older member was here, I guess one of them was or took the name Lucifer, angel of light, and which basically meant student of light. It meant messenger, servant of the light. And the only pure light is from those that created this place. That now, it doesn't work that in the kingdom of heaven that older members do everything, even though perhaps they can. I don't know what guidelines they have within the creation, because the creation is multidimensional. Tiendo said that we could see if the next level changed things about us, then we would be able to see if there was a civilization existing on another planet. Now, Tiendo said that another form of the kingdom of heaven is when the kingdom of heaven is in our midst, it means that a member of the kingdom of heaven is in our midst. And when they come, they bring a crew. They don't try to do it all themselves. They're not into trying to be the hero and all that. They're basically doing a task for their older member. And they love doing it. And they love the results when they see potential new members to their kingdom, to their environment, and where you get to, it would be like having a job that you love to go to and you didn't have to leave. And you didn't sleep and you didn't eat because you didn't need those things. And you just kept on doing your job. And not just one job, you do this job and then you go on to this one and this one, and you observe it first. Tiendo taught us in the group, in the classroom, that like if you were going to be brought into the NutriLab, the nutrition lab, where they have experiments that are called fuels for the physical vehicles, of the mind and body, a certain amount, not the mind, fuel for the mind so much, but fuel for the brain, part of the mind, that does the CPU part. So that at first, if you hadn't been exposed to that lab before, then you would strictly observe for who knows how long. They don't measure and they don't have a time frame. So they don't get impatient because they're observing so that they can learn that task and do it so that they keep that task. Knowing that the more tasks they get and the more responsibility they get, it's just going to be that much more challenging. And they know from history that if they keep on that track, they will meet those challenges, even though they will be very, very difficult at times. Like coming in on a crash landing on a spacecraft, that's nothing, because it's over like that. But coming into what Tiendo called a snake pit, where 99.999 some number of the people, the humans, are going to more or less ignore or hate you and want to extinguish you if they get an inkling, an opportunity. So that's a difficult task, and that's why I'm sitting here now, is because I, in my ego, thought I was ready for such a task. And that's what I asked T for before all hell broke loose for me, and I started giving into sensuality like I had never done before for the 18 years that I was there. I mean, I'm not saying I was perfect at all in the control of my thoughts and my eyes and my vibrations. I was far from perfect. Very imperfect, I believe. And I didn't treat those imperfections seriously enough. So I was permissive and indulgent to a degree. Anyway, and it's not that that's wrong for a human to do. It's not. But if you're going to give your all to the older member, then the older member it's not really jealous. It's not like it does something for them to receive that from us. Doe was very reluctant to ask us for a commitment to him. So T came to us before she left. You know, I don't know. I don't doubt that it was planned that way by T's mind, because T didn't bring all of her mind with her. Doe said that that her mind was capable of doing more than one job. And so T actually brought enough of her mind that mind that was outside her vehicle could play the older member to T. So she was playing her own older member, because, I mean, it would be like an expert in computers in every facet of computers. An expert. I mean, really knows everything about them all. You know, I mean, you know, it doesn't mean that, you know, forget something once in a while, but take it to an extreme. But, you know, you have to go back and look at the books and look up stuff. You know, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about being able to really understand how everything works. That person, when they go into a tech shop, or they go on a house call, when someone's talking about their computer not booting, can do that and could be on the phone at the same time telling somebody else how to solve a problem, and be on probably a conference call telling multiple people how to do different things. So maybe that's a little picture of how it might work. It's like having like different vehicles and being one mind and having different vehicles that you're operating, because you know how to do it remotely, because you have that same, it's just like a cell phone. It has a frequency. It has a carrier frequency, and then it has the frequency that the information travels on. And that didn't come from humans, that pattern, that way of operation of frequency. Nothing here came from humans. I mean, sure, these drums came from humans. But, So the task that was given as an example was taking water to a planet that needed water in a certain spot, a certain location. And so basically your job would be, the example they said was, if they give you an instruction to do a job that you wanted to do, and you're a crew, and on the crew there's probably a partnership that is more experienced, and that can be a combination of one person with a little more experience than the partner, so like a pilot, co-pilot kind of thing. And it doesn't mean everybody's totally equal. There's no equal in that. There's no competition anyway. So it's like respecting each other's opinion, no matter how long you've been there. Because Tiendo said that there's no guarantees that when you're growing, basically, no guarantees. That's not the way to put it. There's no restriction on growth. So therefore, someone coming in as a new member in the level above human can theoretically excel to do more, have more tasks, more opportunity, because they love doing it and it pleases their older member. And so they are a good servant. If you don't want to be a servant, then do what Bob Dylan says, serve somebody else, because you're going to serve somebody. Even if you're serving your physical vehicle, even if you're serving a space alien's idea of, working together to make the planet work, and fixing the environment. We can serve the environment in that way, fix it. But The level above human knows how to fix the environment like that. Now, I don't know how long that is in human terms. Maybe it's 7,000 years. Maybe it's 10,000 years. Maybe it's 100 years. Maybe it's... They said in some of the history books that a day was like 1,000 years. So for them, they've been here for 7 days this last time. You know, back and forth. Because the kingdom of heaven also is when the next level brings their spacecraft into our environment, so that it's even resting on the ground. But it doesn't have to be. It can be up as high as it wants to be and as low as it wants to be, and who knows how deep it is. You know, but the indications in the history books is that it's 1,500 square miles, approximately, which is the size of Pluto, by the way. It would be cubic miles, because that's a big square. But which is approximately the size of Pluto, which is the planet that Tian-Do said they put in the movie they designed with Al-Odi, Dan Sodi, and Kododi. Al-Odi left with them, and Kododi's, I think, living in Arizona now. He worked in Stanley Kubik's office, or associated with Stanley Kubik's office. And Al-Odi was the guy that drew that older member with an airbrush, and he did a lot of pictures for that movie. I don't know where they are now. I'd like to know, but it doesn't really matter, I guess. But I can understand everybody that is coming new to this information and giving it a chance, not just disqualifying it, asking their critical questions. And deciding whether those questions are satisfactory to what they want to know about, and then, you know, going about their business, whatever. You know, this information has to come to you in chunks. It came to me in chunks. Sure, I got a big chunk up front, okay, and then a whole bunch of little chunks and middle-sized chunks. Along the way, but a lot of those chunks I missed. I heard them, I heard the words, I got a certain part of it, but it's only looking back that I can see how much more they were talking about. That was beyond me, and still is. That's the same thing that happened with the Jesus record. Every time you go back to it, you potentially see more, but you have to be looking. You can't just read the words and not expect something more to come from them, and not expect that you understand them. Let me put it that way, that you understand all those words. You have to go back and look at the Greek and Hebrew, at least, and try to fit it in a context, get an understanding of the context. I mean, if you're a serious student of that material, then there's no way that you can't actually search out virtually every word.